Much as Cory, sends me all the formats and shit, I don't bother with it.
We know that.
199 episodes so far. Why bother now?
Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories for the 199th time. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires through the wind tunnel is Joe Crazy Rider. How you doing today, Joe?
Why do English firemen wear red suspenders? So they don't have London britches falling down. Okay, Jen, I think it's official. The crickets are dead.
Oh, my goodness.
Just checking. I wasn't sure. I thought it might be.
That was bad, like right out of the gate.
I know. It's just,
I
was worried that he was lying to us, that he put them somewhere special and he was trying to breed them in some mass cricket breeding program. But I think it's true. They are dead.
That's good.
Why must you continue to torture me? I'm trying to get over it.
Why am I here if not to torture you?
Well, there is that.
I'm a major mocker. That's all I do.
And from the heart of Texas, Jin Wicked is with us once again.
I have no idea what we're oh my goodness. No. I have no idea what we're talking about tonight, so I will be silent through the entire middle of the program.
Joe never knows what we're talking about, and it never stops him from yakking away.
I am so embarrassed about last episode. I don't know what got into me. I listened to it, and I'm going to try to do better tonight.
Jen, you're one up on me. I don't think I ever listen to our episodes.
And I also don't think Joe ever tries to do better.
I will listen to your podcast, though.
You didn't listen to it yet?
No, I gotta wait. Eventually, I'll be in a work location where I can wear headphones and I can just sit down and listen to podcasts. I'm looking forward to that because I got all sorts of ones I want to check out.
I really want some feedback from you guys.
Well, I could turn the gain up on the microphone here. Let's see. No, that's too much.
Not that kind of feedback.
Oh, sorry.
Are you kidding? We barely get feedback on our episode. Although somebody tweeted me, I would say about an hour or so after the episode dropped this morning, because we record on Mondays and then we release it on Mondays unless someone strong arms me to release it early.
Excellent work.
Oh no. Jin just wanted the episode so that I could promote your podcast for you, and heaven forfend I asked for it a little bit early.
Forfend?
That's a word, right?
Hang on, let me check.
Hang on.
It is now. I just put it in Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is not a dictionary. Is it in the
Urban Dictionary?
Forfend, verb, avert, keep away, or prevent.
Boy, this is better than Reader's Digest. Improve your vocabulary. I like that.
Forfend.
Forfend. I like that.
Forfend.
I haven't been so excited since I learned the word plethora.
That's a good word.
I still like the word pellucid.
It's a perfectly cromulent word.
Someone tweeted an hour after the episode was announced this morning, wait, Neil Adams believes in the Hollow Earth theory? That guy's insane. And all I have to say is, if you've read Batman Odyssey, you know that Neil Adams has some screws loose. But next week is episode 200, so if you would like to call and congratulate us and hear yourself on the air and feed your own ego, you could do that, you know.
Yes.
We got us a phone number.
We does.
Yes, it's 952-856-0519. All you got to do, call, leave a message. You'll be on episode 200, which is going to be a big deal.
All right, say that number one more time.
952-856-0519. 0519.
Cool.
And I would try and spell it out as a word, but there isn't one.
I was hoping you'd do Braille.
How can people hear Braille on a podcast?
That's your problem. You had to figure out how to redo the podcast after I tried to put my beautiful mug in there by activating video.
I kill you 9 times. I kill you 9 times.
I'd worry about that. You can't even count to 9.
Yes, I can. I have most of my fingers. By the way, we're on Stitcher now.
Woohoo!
What's Stitcher?
Stitcher is a podcast aggregating system so that on your cell phone you could go, I want to listen to this podcast, or I want to listen to that podcast, or I don't know. It's another one of those things like the German thing that loves us so much.
Oh, it's probably, I think, the biggest one for Android.
Stitcher,
yeah. I use Pocket Casts, but...
So last week I
Stitcher's
learned about
good.
internet comic porn. This week I learned about Stitcher. And I learned a new word.
And last week our episode had over 350 downloads from that German podcast site that loves us so much.
That might have been me. I was having trouble with my computer.
In Germany?
I like to hide my domain.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, pretty much.
Joe,
Although it doesn't really matter. I mean, everybody in China has my information.
Are you kidding? I think everybody might have your information. Did you hear about the hack of Ashley Madison?
Mm-mm.
Ashley Madison, which is a website for, it's kind of like Match.com for people who want to cheat on their spouses. Somebody broke in, got all the usernames, all the info, and is threatening to release it. And I don't know. I hear the ads all the time, and it sounds like the way they pitch the website, everybody who's a member has already gotten approval from their spouse. It says so right in the ad. So why is anybody scared that their information's going to be released? Glad I don't have to worry about such things.
Hello. Sorry.
By the way, that is the fastest typing on the internet.
It is.
I type very quickly.
It is. Right now, Jin's complaining about the podcast already.
Hey, why waste time? I'm telling you, you might as well get the negative reviews up and over with.
I am angrily typing iTunes reviews under several different accounts.
At least we're getting some reviews. You guys suck, and Jin's not on enough, and she needs to. Matter of fact, give her the podcast. You guys quit. I know that that's what you guys have planned for episode 201. I know it. There will be a coup.
No. We're just going to turn this into a Andy Griffith worshiping site. You know, opiate for the masses.
God, I miss the crickets.
Just checking. I still don't believe you, but I'm slowly beginning to believe.
Nope, there was the test last week, and Jin listened to herself just so she could prove to herself that the crickets are dead.
Yep.
But with the crickets dead, because this is comic books, do we know if they're really dead? Did we see a body? Will they come back to life?
Will they be cloned? Will they become from another dimension? The Cricket Clone Saga. Exclusively. Here.
I'm wondering. Because comic book characters die all the time. And I think, Joe, is there any major comic book character who's died who hasn't come back?
Not major.
Because we used to say at Marvel, everybody comes back except Bucky and Uncle Ben. And Bucky came back. And then there was that story with Uncle Ben from an alternate universe who kind of wandered around and then just kind of vanished.
Well, even Gwen Stacy came back, or a clone of her.
Yeah.
Now an alternate dimension of her.
So does death matter in comics anymore, Joe?
I used to think it did, but I can't even say his name. What was his name? Fabian Nicieza?
Nicieza.
Thank you. He used to argue that death doesn't matter because, one, they're fictional characters, and two, there's always you can always bring them back somehow, especially when you're dealing in the realm of science fiction, fantasy, whatever. You can come up with any reason to bring them back.
Now, when you had the shop in the 90s, did death matter for sales? I know we've talked a lot about how you opened the week Superman died, and of course that helped sales. But other than Superman, did it really matter? Did anybody really get excited and want to buy extra copies of it back by then?
I don't think anybody died in the 90s that I can think of that came back or even mattered. I mean, people are all excited about the what was that guy? Onslaught, and when they gave all the superheroes to the Image Boys to play with. That wasn't really a death, although they made it sound like a death in the Marvel Universe. But we knew they were in an alternate universe and later became Franklin's Play universe. So, and now, of course, with Convergence and what looks like is going to happen towards the end of Secret Worlds.
Secret World?
I was going to say Squirrels because I'm looking at a copy of the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. No, it's Secret Wars.
By the way, all squirrels must die.
All those characters are going to be back. So they're basically open up fair game. And we've talked about it before. You make this great character like Old Man Logan. Well, we can't use him because he's an alternate timeline from the future. And, well, now you're going to, or you can, if so. It to me, it opens up, makes it a little bit more exciting because you don't know if these one-shot characters are going to come back. I've always said the Age of Apocalypse Sabretooth is much more interesting than the 616 one. That was numeral 616 word ONE.
One of the problems I had when they started bringing characters over from Age of Apocalypse, remember they brought over the Evil Beast?
Or that Sugar Man. Was it like a giant funnel that talked? I don't know.
Yeah. But the Evil Beast, it's a big deal, and he's smarter, and he's evil, and he never really did anything other than show up at the end of stories for shock value, and then he'd just kind of do nothing.
Well, that was always a problem with the X-Men, is that all their characters, especially their villains, were so powerful. You just couldn't defeat them. You had to kind of deter them. And then they'd come back later in another storyline. There was never anybody defeated. There was never anybody jailed. All you could do is deflect the attack and then say, we're lucky this time, and wait for him to come back. Or in Mojo's case, wait till he turned the channel and brought another program back,
See, there's a character who was interesting his first couple appearances, and now it's like, it's Mojo.
It was interesting when he was in Long Shot because we didn't know anything about him, But then they bring him back, and now he's kind of a joke upon himself.
Then, I think when Captain America died and the sales went through the roof on that, your second shop was closed by the time that happened, right?
Correct.
Marvel told their shareholders that because the sales on that were so good, they were going to kill off a character every quarter.
They say a lot of things. They said they were going to, by now comics were supposed to be $7.99 a piece.
But I think when Disney bought them up, they no longer have to answer to shareholders, so they more go by story rather than answering to shareholders, which is good. Because they're not killing off somebody every quarter, but they're awful close because we had the big Wolverine death.
And he might not even come back because it sounds like Old Man Logan's going to be running around as the Wolverine of choice.
And his X-23 is going to be the lead character in the Wolverine series, right?
It could be. I saw it and it kind of like, meh.
So what I thought we could do is talk about the big, do another Fave 5, but it's hard to, hey, this was my favorite death. Because, come on, my favorite death was when Richard Nixon died.
Nixon's back. He came back, You're not going to have Dick to push around anymore.
But I thought we'd go over, the most important superhero character deaths. And then, maybe talk about some that...
And a lot of them are, with the exception of one, are from real long ago.
Yeah.
Which tells you something about how transitory death is now. It's kind of like, meh. The only people who seem to die are... Well, we'll get to it.
Yeah. For me, the first one is Captain Stacy in the Spider-Man comic. Captain Stacy was Gwen's father. He was a major supporting character, and he was killed by Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus were on top of a building fighting. Dr. Octopus destroyed some chimney, and it fell on him, killing him. And as he died, he admitted to Spider-Man that he knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker. And it was important for the fact that, one, it kind of showed that Marvel was willing to change things, because they'd kind of reached this static where nothing really changed a lot. But they also did it to kind of reintroduce tragedy into Spider-Man's character, because Uncle Ben had died so many years before.
Yeah, he was pushing up rice in the field.
See, still no crickets.
I'm testing.
You could stop testing. They're dead.
That's not going to stop the jokes. If you killed them just to stop me from joking.
I didn't kill them.
The joke's on you.
My son dropped the desk on him.
Uh-huh.
Joe, you're breaking kayfabe.
Until I see you talk to your son and get confirmation. A death that happens off camera never happened.
Well, you know how much I love the crickets, and they haven't shown up. Anyway, Uncle Ben had passed away so long before that kind of the tragedy had sort of diluted, and they needed something else for Spider-Man to incessantly bellyache about.
Uncle Ben, Orville Redenbacher, Colonel Sanders, they're all gone.
Colonel Sanders is back, you know.
Mr. Clean.
Colonel Sanders being played by Randy Quaid. Those are some creepy commercials. The next death I have written down is Gwen Stacy, Spider-Man's longtime girlfriend. Gary Conway in his first story arc on
let's
Spider-Man.
kill off the blonde.
Although he says that John Romita, who was the artist at the time, was the one who said, "Hey, Stan's out of the office. Let's kill Gwen." But they killed off Gwen, and partly to, again, give Spider-Man more tragedy, but also to sort of shake things up, because really they'd gone as far as they could with Gwen Stacy, and it was either, well, he either needs to marry her, which we don't want that to happen. A married Spider-Man, nobody will read that.
They'll have to have a devil undo that.
She'll have to leave the book, and then...
But not before going to France, becoming pregnant from, like, the dad of one of his major villains.
No, it was his major villain, the Green Goblin.
She got gobbled up, all right.
Ooh. And the thing about that death that I find interesting is that at the time they thought, oh yeah, you know, we'll kill her off, and then we'll be able to do a story about Mary Jane Watson, and that'll bring back both the tragedy and kind of the soap opera stuff. But to a lot of people, they point to that moment as the end of the Silver Age.
It was kind of a 1-2. I mean, Gwen Stacy got it, and then the next issue, Osborn got it. Norm, although he got better.
Oof, that was a bad story. I like what they've done with him since, but the way they brought him back was just a terrible story.
But I mean, for that time, and it was one of those things that even I knew about Gwen. My first comic was Amazing Spider-Man 178, and even I knew about it. I don't know how the hell I knew that, yeah, he had been married to Gwen and she died.
They weren't married.
Well, one way or another, she was pregnant in France. I know. Sins of the father, something like that. But I think it was my old partner, Pat, that actually borrowed me his run of Spider-Man. And it was incomplete, so I had to, I read a few in here. Now it's probably all either in the essentials or somewhere else. But the question I have, Corey, do you believe, at the end of that issue where Gwen died, Spider-Man pretty much flipped it. He vowed he was going to kill Norm Osborn. Did you believe into the next issue it was going to happen.
See, I read it again very much after the fact.
Okay, so you knew what happened.
Matter of fact, that was one of the ways I got interested in Marvel Comics. One of the kids on the bus was talking about how great Marvel Comics were. And I would read, the Barks Ducks, and I was big on Harvey. I loved Harvey. My favorite characters were Richie Rich and Jackie Jokers. And I didn't much like superhero books. But he said, oh man, these Marvel books are great. You got to read them. Things change. They do stuff. Oh yeah, like what? They killed Spider-Man's girlfriend, and then the next issue, the villain who killed her died. So that was kind of my introduction to Marvel. For me, going back and reading those issues, I really have a lot of trouble believing that there was some sort of controversy whether the fall killed her or the sudden stop killed her. Because if you read it, pay attention to stuff, it's the fact that Spider-Man used his webbing to stop her and her neck broke.
Which I believe who did the book, The Physics of Superhero, he basically proved, yes, that's what killed her, the stop. And he did it using numbers of physics. He said there was no way someone at that height, at that speed, would be stopped without something happening. And he said it pretty much happened as it did. So Spider-Man killed Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, and I like the fact that when John Romita talks about it, he said he's the one who made sure he put the snap there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Gary Conway, when he was at our convention, he's told the story of the death of Gwen Stacy probably more times than you and I have had a grilled cheese sandwich. And I eat a lot of grilled cheese. And he said John Romita's the one who made sure to letter that in, because Gary Conway just wanted it to be that she was dead when she fell. The Goblin had already killed her, and she was dead when she fell, and Romita said, no, we need to add the extra tragedy. And then I think it was in an issue of Back Issue or something where Romita talked about, oh yeah, I wanted to make sure she was dead. I didn't want her coming back.
Yeah, she's not coming back. No.
She did. I liked Mary Jane a lot
She
more.
did. She was like one of the first clones. But that's a different subject.
Well, what happened was, it happened while Stan Lee was out of the office. And they'd ask him, hey, Stan, is it okay if we kill Gwen? Yeah, whatever. I got to go. Bye. And then Stan Lee was doing a tour where he'd, be at colleges. And he'd take question and answer. And people were just mad that Gwen had been killed. They were furious. And Stan's one of these guys who he always wants to please everybody. I even listened to an interview with Paul Rudd today where he talked about when Stan Lee showed up on set. Whoever came up to him and said, do you remember when we blah, 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 blah? Stan would go, oh
sure,
yeah, it was great. I loved it. Ant-Man, one of my favorite characters, was so happy, blah, 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 blah. And then he'd, go to, for filming the scene, he'd go to Paul Rudd, and I have no idea who that guy is. No idea.
I just found it interesting after the actual death issue, just how intense Spider-Man was going after the Green Goblin, to the point where even the Green Goblin realized he screwed up. And I think anytime they bring Norm out of the wherever he is now, I don't know what happened recently. Didn't he get a new face or something? I forget.
I don't know.
But they brought a little bit of it out in the New Avengers when they became apparent that Norm was going to have something to do there, and Spider-Man was just livid. I mean, he wanted nothing to do with it. And I have no idea if any of the guys realize, hey, he killed my girlfriend. But, I don't know if they knew he was Peter Parker at that time, but I don't know if they, you put together the dots. But anytime, it's like the old pro wrestling grudges, Anytime Norm comes out and Spider-Man's there, Spider-Man should just go after him and take him down. It should just be, I don't see how he can get over that ever. Maybe a deal with the devil.
But what I was getting to with Stan, because he was getting all these people complaining, he actually came back to the office and said, you people killed Gwen Stacy. Well, yes, Dan, you approved it. You've got to bring her back.
Bring her back. Well, and then they just left at the end of the issue, the clone, just realizing she was a clone, wandered away.
Yeah.
And I know she's popped up here and there, and they retro-wrote her to be a virus, and no, it wasn't a virus, and then she ended up killing somebody. I read it all somewhere. There's a column on Comic Resources where they deal with all that stuff. So you don't have to dig it out in the back issues. You can just go read. Here's the final appearance. Not that it matters now. She's back. Spider-Gwen. And I think she's staying.
Well, she's got her own series, and I guess Kevin Feige, the guy who's in charge of Marvel movies, absolutely loves the character. Loves the character. Which is one of the reasons why the character got a book so quickly.
Let's see if this works. Spider-Gwen. Works just like a mother hen. No, it doesn't. I'll work on that.
The other thing about Gwen Stacy's death is, for decades, they referenced it, to the point where they were referencing it more than the death of Uncle Ben. Especially during the early years of the Peter Parker-Mary Jane marriage, where it was almost as if every so often, okay, we have to hammer home that while Peter and Mary Jane love each other, Gwen was his first choice. Which I always thought was kind of creepy and weird. The next one I have...
Depends if you're in the Cross universe, maybe not.
Maybe. The next one I have is one that I actually was reading comics for and was a huge shock when it happened, and that is the death of Jean Grey.
Even that was the first X-Men issue I bought. I looked at 120, I believe, because it had Spider-Man in the beginning of it. I think that was the issue where they got sucked into Murder World. And then the next issue, Spider-Man wasn't in it. And I was like, oh, that's no fair. And I put the X-Men back. But that's the first issue I picked up because, again, Dynamite magazines, reprints. However, I knew who Jean Grey was. I knew it was a big deal that she died. I didn't know who Wolverine was. I mean, I kind of knew because I saw him at the beginning of earlier Spider-Man. I think, what was it? 149? I forget what it was. It was a crossover between Nightcrawler, Punisher, Spider-Man.
Oh, 160 and 161.
Yeah. In the beginning, it starts out where Nightcrawler and Wolverine are getting into it, and Colossus pulls them apart. And I had no idea who any of these guys are. So I knew who Nightcrawler was. Kind of knew who the other guys were. I knew Cyclops. I knew Professor X. I knew Beast. I knew Phoenix. Well, then it was Jean Grey. So I knew the X-Men. I didn't know the new X-Men. I didn't know how popular they were, but they were still inexpensive enough where I was able to collect all the way back to like issue 109. And then I picked up a couple before that. And then again, Pat allowed me to read his giant size one forward, so I was able to catch up in it. Well, I figure once I've read it, at least I know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was interesting then is the X-Men, they weren't all over the place. There was one X-Men book. There was one Spider-Man book that, Stacy and Gwen Stacy and Captain Stacy died in. There were not 500 million X-Men books. This was it. You either read Uncanny X-Men or you just didn't read X-Men. They operated in their own corner of the universe. There were always references to the rest of the Marvel universe, but for the most part, X-Men and mutants were just whatever.
And I think most people know that going into the story, they weren't going to kill Jean Grey. It was going to be, she was going to be depowered, and then it would build to issue 150.
This year, isn't she Phoenix?
Yeah. But when John Byrne drew, in the plot, it was Phoenix devours a star to replenish her power and then flies back to Earth. And John Byrne drew an extra panel of inhabited world that's destroyed when she devours the star. And Jim Shooter said, well, she killed people, she has to pay.
Weren't those people that appeared like in Avengers 4 or something?
There was something like that.
They were the same like broccoli head people that had appeared in an earlier issue, which was kind of something fun with Marvel because they would always, I mean, it was like, again, a Spider-Man issue where the infamous Spider-Man mobile showed up. And he finds out it was done by the Tinkerer. We hadn't seen the Tinkerer since issue number 2 of Amazing Spider-Man.
And we were left to believe that the terrible Tinkerer
was an alien.
God, the terrible Tinkerer.
A terrible Tinkerer. Was an alien. And he goes, not at all, boy. That was just a ruse.
But it was a big deal when it came out, to the point where there was these 2 books put out back in the early 80s called the X-Men Companion, which were just interviews with the creators. And everybody who was working on the book said, we went from, kind of being bouncing around sales-wise, but with the death of Jean Grey, the X-Men became the #1 selling Marvel comic.
Was that an old comic reader that they reprinted the original story?
No, they did a special issue.
Well, later on they did, but I know it originally broke in, like, because I remember the comic or the magazine, and they had panels, where Jean Grey, depowered, was all childlike looking at a lake, and they talked a lot about that. But then, yeah, they did come out with the original. And there's a lot to be said for going back to being able to rewrite something, because I thought the death story was a lot stronger, a lot more true to the character than the original one was. Because they rewrote lots of it. I think they rewrote the whole Wolverine justification for why he was doing what he was doing. Instead of thinking about his love, he was thinking, either way, I'm standing by Jean. And it was, to me, it seemed much stronger the way they published it than the way it was originally.
And in a lot of ways for the X-Men, it kind of showed that, hey, no one is safe. Jean Grey was she was kind of the through character in X-Men #1 back in 1963. And, they've killed off one of the core original Marvel characters. I'm
looking at your other list here, and unlike Thunderbird, who died in 94, 95?
Yeah.
But he was made specifically for the book. I think he was just made to die. He wasn't built. It wasn't a big thing. It was just kind of made it the new X-Men. Okay, this is deadly because people will die, and he wasn't really referred to as heavily as Jean Grey had been, and still is.
And I was reading comics at the time. This was when I was in high school, and it was kind of your jaw drops, and you're like, holy crap. And then the next issue is a funeral issue.
Which was a brilliant time to get caught up on the X-Men.
Yeah.
Because they did an entire backstory. Come to think of it, that's probably how I knew so much about the X-Men. They did the same thing in Spider-Man about issue 180, where they just kind of did an entire, internal monologue where Peter Parker's talking about everything that's happened up to this point. As he left his microscope on Uncle Ben's grave, they did the same thing where Cyclops is just mentally toiling inside the beginning of the X-Men all the way up to then, which was a lot easier because, again, remember, one X-Men book, one Spider-Man book.
The next big death that I think mattered was the death of Supergirl in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, characters were dropping right and left in Crisis, but Supergirl got a big death scene. She got a double-size issue. She got a huge cover. It was a big deal. And for the most part, DC did not bring her back for a good 15 years.
And then the following issue, Flash died. The interesting thing about it, Supergirl died very publicly. Nobody knew Flash died until several issues later. And he got better and came back.
Yeah, but again, that was a big deal, and Barry Allen was dead for 20 years.
Yeah.
But the death of Supergirl was a really big deal, and DC tried to make it stick to the point where when Mark Waid kind of had her ghost show up in an issue. He was fired as an editor.
I read that. She actually, the story was dealing with another hero who had just died, and he was worried about people forgetting him, and then he runs into someone who says, "My name's Kara." Says, "It's not so bad being forgotten. You remember what you did," which I don't ever recall reading, but when I reread it, it's like, wow, that was pretty. Still, for something so minor, a lot of them bigwigs were pretty uptight.
Well, it was because he'd violated one of the editorial rules. It's okay. Here are the rules we have going forward. And he threw that in without asking anybody or getting approval or anything. And it's, you do know that's not allowed, right? And I follow Mark Waid's Twitter. Mark Waid's been at the convention. Great writer. He can rub people the wrong way. I don't think he'd be the kind of guy who'd show up in a suit and tie and get along with everybody in a meeting if he disagreed with them.
Creative types can be that way.
Yeah.
Don't you think so, Jin?
Hang on, I had to unmute my microphone.
I know, that's why we figured we'd pause it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because I know what's going to happen.
There's a lot of words coming out my headphones, and I
can see people
here.
are going to come to this episode. Oh, Jin's back, and then she didn't say nothing the entire episode. So I thought I'd just bring that back. Creative people, they are tough to get along with. Would you not agree?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a fucking bucket of sunshine.
That's true. I'm feeling warm now just talking to you.
I get along with everybody.
She's a bucket of sunshine. Oh, yeah.
Stop.
Time to feel good. Okay.
That's better.
I want you on every episode just so you will stop Joe from singing.
I will be on every episode just to stop Joe from singing. I just, it's okay. I don't mind. You start talking about stuff I don't know. I just mute my mic and read Wikipedia and come back when I hear my name.
Well, if I remember right, that's how you follow movies that you don't want to watch.
Yeah. It's just read the Wikipedia entry. Well, I was in an instant, I was having a conversation here while I was gone, and they're like, aren't you on a podcast or something right now? I'm like, it's fine. They're talking about comic books. Uncle Ben, Spider-Man, something, I don't know.
And we all know.
Jin hates comics.
Yes.
You're gonna teach me about comics though, right?
Oh yeah.
I have Joe, some of the stuff that I have lined up, Bean World.
Oh, you might like Bean World.
I'm going to get a crash course in comic books.
She has Saga now.
I need to start it still, but yes, I have Saga.
Yeah, I have Saga too. Let me know, because, we could all three do something about Saga.
We could, yes. I could read the books and we can talk about them.
I could talk Saga all day long. Not that anybody'd want to listen, and you guys would probably both mute and go to Wikipedia, but still.
No, I'd porn.
I don't want to do that this week, because for some reason lately, every conversation or thing I get involved with turns dirty, and I don't want to get typecast here.
Waka waka waka.
Well, one of the things the listeners could do is recommend some comics for Jen.
You could.
A couple of things. She's very art driven, as you heard in our last episode.
I like things. Something really has to be unique to really capture my attention. So
Bean World is really unique.
One reason why I don't read, say, like the superhero comics, and this isn't a diss against any of the artists that work on those, because I look at the art and I can objectively tell this is beautiful art, but something has to really be not necessarily good, but very different to capture my attention. So the few comics that I do read are like ones that have really unique art style. So I like anything that looks different, even if it's not technically great. If it looks different, that's what catches my attention.
Neat.
We got one more death to go,
okay.
So Jen will be muting it.
Oh yeah,
Good
okay.
for her. Good
Goodbye.
for her.
I'm out.
The last death I have is the death of Captain America. Yes, we all knew he would be back. We all knew when he would be back because there was a movie coming out. But the story was so good and so well handled that when Bucky took his place, there were people who were upset when Steve Rogers came back and Bucky was no longer Captain America. And I thought that was kind of the new template for how they're going to do the big character death of, okay, everybody knows Wolverine's coming back, Spider-Man's coming back, you know, blah, 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 blah. But let's see if we could tell a really good story and get a new character out of it that people will enjoy. And the thing about the death of Captain America is Captain America was not a book that sold real well. They killed him and it sold through the roof, so that's one of the reasons why you get characters dying all the time. But the reprints continue to sell well. I think the omnibus, The Death of Captain America, which has the whole story, is actually one of Marvel's top-selling omnibuses and has actually been printed 3 separate times. And Marvel doesn't like reprinting the omnibuses. What did you think of The Death of Captain America?
It flowed out of Civil War almost seamlessly. I know they were 2 different events, and they plotted them. They thought maybe that's how we should end Civil War, but then they decided not to. I thought it was stronger the way they did it. I have never read The Return of Captain America, and I got to admit, after a while, when it broke off into 2 books, I kind of lost track of what happened. But that's just me. I'll follow one book, and you decide to make it a dozen. Well, no thanks. I got Marvel Unlimited. I can go back and reread it if I want.
Now, there were other deaths that I wanted to put on the list. Joe, did you have any that I didn't put on my list?
Initially, it was Superman, just because of the sheer boldness, how it captured the public's attention. It got press. It got a run-up to it. I mean, everybody knew it was coming. Despite being a entire issue of just splash pages, it was fairly strong. I mean, it got to me when I read it. I mean, when we finally got those books, now remember, the first week we owned the comic store, Pat and I, was the week Superman died. The buildup had been coming. DC had brilliantly kept all the buildup issues in print, which is why when you see issues in the bin, you see a little 2 or 3, those are second or third printings, so you can identify them right away. So you could jump on, you could get the whole story. We had 300 subscribers for Superman, and of those, maybe 100 of them just wanted Superman. The day of, we got the books, we had them piled high. Dan Wiesemeyer had the brilliant forethought to place a massive reorder through Diamond. So not only did we have enough for almost everybody, I think we limited like 1 bag, 1 unbagged. But then the following week, we got this massive reorder in, and we still had them when everybody else was selling them at $10 to $20. Some people bought them $50 to $100. Good luck with that. They're going maybe 10, 20 on eBay now. Not to mention the fact that the bag it comes in, very detrimental to the comic. So one of these days, these people are going to open up a comic and find just a bunch of dust inside.
And a black armband.
Oh, yeah, the black armband will stick around. Yeah, there was some cool stuff in there. Nick, our good buddy Nick, his mom borrowed me a chiropractic skeleton that she used in the office. We put it in the window. We had great window display. I had lights going onto it. DC gave us what we call billboard size promo posters that they were big enough, one window of, like, I think we had 3 different windows, and you could see it from the street. The only other people to ever give me one that big was when Ultraverse came out. They gave me a huge one that I could put out, and you could read it from the street. Most of the time, your promo posters either got to be up close or whatever. The day it opened, we had a steady stream of people. They walked in, went over to the counter, picked one of each up, walked around. If people brought their family in, everybody could get one of each because, everybody wanted a few for investment purposes. We had someone from the news crew interviewing Dan. I was running subscriptions. If somebody came in, a subscriber, we'd pull their books. We made sure everybody who wanted it had their subscription copy so they didn't have to bust their butt getting in. Brian ran the till. When it was the most incredible week to ever open a comic book store. By the time we ended up being Hot Comics East, and Brian and Dan went to open Hot Comics West over in the 50th in France area. And what happened was they had a number of copies that they kept for themselves, put them in the display. So people were walking by for a week before they opened their shop and saw the bagged Superman comic, which was, put people in a nosebleed frenzy. My God, they still have them. So they started out their shop with a bang. Most of the 300 people stuck with us at least until, was it the White Superman? Yeah, the last issue of the thing was the white bagged Superman. And then they had was a 3 or 4 month hiatus, and then they came back.
They did they did a lot of one-shot specials and things like that, but they did 3 months where they didn't publish any of the regular Superman books. They published other stuff so that the creators were still, making a living.
Yeah. And that's when a lot of these people who just wanted Superman dropped off. Because we were like, he's going to come back. Do you want part of that? Some did, some didn't. But for that part, out of 300 plus subscribers, 100 were just Superman only. And we took calls. I mean, it was crazy time.
And there's a lot of talk about how, well, if they wouldn't have announced it on a slow news day, blah, 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 blah. I personally think it would have gotten coverage anyway, because comics were really building sales-wise. You got to remember, this was after Spider-Man #1 had sold over 1 million copies. And then X-Factor #1 sold 5 million copies. And then X-Men #1 sold 9 million copies. And DC hadn't really done anything that had exploded. Batman was selling really, really well after the movie. But when they announced the death of Superman, it was right there on the cover of Advance Comics. And I was working at Shinder's when it was announced. And there were people coming in who were like, I got to buy this. I got to have this. Do you guys save comics? Do you have a subscription service? Do you have anything like that? And, of course, Shinder's did not. So I went, nope, you're going to have to be there the day it comes out. Make sure you get one. We'll have plenty of copies.
And did they?
Then I left Shinder's, and Joe got them. But I think it was a really huge deal, especially since they'd had the death of Jason Todd as Robin. And like a week after that issue came out, it was already $25 and $30. So you were deep in the speculation world at that time.
Yeah, there were people that wanted like 10, 20 copies, and we accommodated subscribers, or if somebody called us ahead of time, we maybe gave them 2 or 3. 5 is the most I can think of. And I know if Gruber probably ordered 20 for himself, they made sure. I mean, everybody got filled. All our subscribers, if they wanted it, got it. I wish I could talk to Jim Thole, because he was our sole Marvel only guy. I don't even know if we tossed one in his bag just for the hell of it.
The other one that I had that didn't make the list was that death of Jason Todd.
Call in 1-800 number. See if the Joker will brain him.
It was a 900 number, so you had to pay money to vote on whether Robin would die. Oh,
that's right. It was a quarter a piece, if I recall, because I remember telling people, yep, I sent my quarter in. Wonder how much they made on that.
They never said, and Denny O'Neil in the first trade paperback talked about how depressed he was that the people had voted for Robin to die, whereas Jim Starlin said, look, we stacked the deck. We made this character a jerk. He was next to a villain, and nobody wanted him in the books.
Didn't he let somebody drop to his death?
Yeah. And he'd done, progressively more morally dubious things happen.
Well, yeah, they changed it from an original run where he kind of mirrored Dick Grayson's origin, and there was a big hubbubaloo about Bruce Wayne wanted to adopt him as opposed to just have him a ward of whatever, however they legally described it. There was even comments like, one of my favorite issues is the Teen Titans 50, where I can't remember the name of her fiance, but Wonder Girl gets married.
Oh,
Donna
yeah.
gets married. And there's even a scene where Bruce and Dick are on the balcony, and he's talking about, why didn't you ever think to adopt me? And the tender moment was, I thought of you were as my own son. It might have been just because I was being Batman. And while they're doing this, all the girls are up there just dropping their tongues like, oh, who are those two? It's a fantastic wedding issue. Maybe we'll do that later, do a top 5 weddings in the Marvel or DC universe. But I mean, that's just one of those that I always will keep because it's just fun to pull out and read every so often. But we're talking about death. There's got to be some deaths in comics that didn't matter.
There are all kinds of deaths in comics.
We should just run this one short. Because, I mean, it's like I said earlier, he plunged to his death, but we didn't find the body. I mean, that
was they did that all the time when I started reading comics. Because it wasn't, okay, we're going to arrest these people and put them in jail. It was always, he fell into a lake. He fell into the river. He fell off a building. My favorite of those was when Dr. Octopus, when he almost married Aunt May. The final battle is at this nuclear power plant that's about to explode. Spider-Man gets away. Dr. Octopus can't get away. Atomic explosion.
Kaboom.
But we didn't see the body, and issues later, how did Dr. Octopus survive? Well, his arms in his origin were used. They were used for him to mess with radioactive material, so they obviously could protect him from radioactivity. So he wrapped his arms around himself to survive being at ground zero.
Now, see,
nuclear explosion.
Nowadays, I would have figured that's brilliant. Back then, I was like, oh, you just pulled that one out of your ass.
For me, it's more, okay, maybe that can protect you from the radioactivity, but how about the fact that this is an explosion?
Well, it can't be any tougher than jumping into an old lead-lined Frigidaire and riding it.
People complain about that, but let's also remember that Indy survived by strapping himself to the periscope of a submarine and riding across the Atlantic Ocean.
Dun, 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 dun.
So if you're looking for Indiana Jones to follow the laws of logic and physics, you're watching the wrong movies, kids. I keep thinking back to the death of Black Goliath in Civil War. And it was supposed to be this big deal that we were supposed to care about. And it's like, it's Black Goliath. His comic lasted 5 issues in the 70s. And basically he shows up in the background of crowd scenes every 6 years.
That's funny.
Who cares?
That's Civil War number 4. I've got a variant of it I'm putting on eBay in a couple days. And I just, I love Civil War. I mean, I like just reading it. I don't have a trade of it yet. But I read that, and it was, for the event and the time, it was shocking because you just didn't expect it. Because at that time it happened, I believe the ending of 3 was, oh my God, Thor is back. And then all of a sudden Thor blows a hole away in Black Goliath. I mean, there was basically no doubt. There was nothing left. I mean, it could have been like the Mr. Moo guy in Jay and Silent Bob, just a big hole you can look through as it slowly drops backwards. And of course, it allowed everybody to be shocked. Suit changed. Spider-Man started to be whatever. And of course, he couldn't shrink back, so they had to build a giant-sized grave, which Tony Stark paid for. And then, of course, the bitch who got Tony Stark's Crumpet in a bundle anyways, came and gave him her son's little Iron Man toy. This is why you're doing that, because Black Goliath was evil and blah, blah, blah. That's when Civil War kind of started to jump a shark for me. It's like, oh, she just happens to have, she had more access to Tony Stark than anybody else in the Marvel Universe. And she just happens to show up just in time when Tony's thinking, oh my God, what did I do? Oh yeah, we're doing this because Nitro blew up and killed 800 kids and whatever. It's still a fun story, but I mean, it started out shocking, and by the end of the issue 4, you were like,
For me, have I ever told you the story of when I went and saw the movie Triple X, I think it was? And the movie starts
I thought we weren't going to do any porn stories, 'cause
It's
Jin didn't want to talk that stuff.
No more
She's
porn.
not listening anymore.
I'm paying attention.
No porn.
I'm here.
She's watching. She's
I'm
always
watching
I have to stay on my good behavior then, don't I?
Yep.
Anyway, so I'm watching the movie Triple X at the theater. It's the Vin Diesel action film. And it opens with all this stuff going on, and then it goes Prague. And the gist of the scene is that we have to stop this nuclear bomb from destroying Prague. And somebody down like 5 rows ahead of me was like, who effing cares? It's Prague. Let it blow up. I felt the same way. It's Black Goliath. Who cares?
Justice is served.
In a lot of these event comics and stuff like that, here's a minor character who hasn't been seen for a good 10 to 15 years, and now they get some speaking lines. Well, they're dead, because it's not like they're going to go, hey, let's bring back Pantha and have her be a major character. No, it's, okay, this character needs to kill, so we need some cannon fodder. Who haven't we used in a while? All right, let's look through Who's Who or the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. Oh, we haven't used that character in 12 years. He's dead. I think one of my favorite Who Cares killings, though, there was an issue of the X-Men where in one issue they killed the Hellions, which were kind of the evil version of the New Mutants. And then in the next issue, because everyone had forgotten they'd done it in the issue before, they killed him again. We hate these characters so much, we're not just killing them once, we're killing them twice.
And they still came back.
No, really, they didn't.
Yeah, well, just wait. Everything's off the board with Secret Wars.
And I think that's one of the problems I have with the DC Universe, with them, when a character dies. It's very much who cares, because they're going to do a reboot in 3 years anyway, and the character will come back.
The character came back the very next day. We thought he was a god.
Joe.
Sorry.
But the ones that really get me are the series that are like, what was that Avengers book they did a little while back, where it was the knockoff of Casino Royale. I wish they were knocking off Casino more. The knockoff of Battle Royale, where, all right, Arcade has an island, and you're split into teams, and you have to kill each other. Or there was that new X-Men book, which featured teenage X-Men, where sales weren't good, so after 12 issues, it's like, all right, somebody dies in every issue. When that's the hook to get you to read, it's like, why should I read a book about a bunch of expendable characters who are just going to die anyway? It misses the point. A death in a book should be something big, dramatic. It should cause a change. And it should be something that, like with the death of Gwen Stacy, changes the direction of a series.
Besides, we got a movie franchise called Expendables. We don't need it in a comic format, even though it was a comic book.
It was?
Yes, I think IDW did a comic, either adaptation or continuation or something.
Isn't every movie getting a comic book from either Boom, IDW, or Dynamite?
Why not? It works so well for Dell and Gold Key.
Joe? By the 70s, Gold Key was dead.
And then they had, of course, Marvel doing it.
Yeah, those Marvel adaptations, other than Star Wars, none of them sold very well.
Bad. Very bad.
So there we go. There's our talk about death. You know who's not going to die? They don't die, they multiply. You know who that is, Joe?
Uh-oh.
These guys, our sponsors. You may not be able to join the mighty Marvel Marching Society anymore, or even the Friends of Old Marvel, but you can visit our sponsors. Our oldest sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best, bar none, web host in the whole known universe. If you need a website, go to DreamHost.com. They will take care of you as they've been taking care of me for over 15 years. If you use the code CRAZY, that's K-R-A-Y-Z, you get $20 off your first year of hosting. If you are listening to this podcast, you are very good looking. That's right. As a good-looking person, you can't trust your skin to any old razor. That's why you need to shave with the amazing razors you could get delivered from the Dollar Shave Club. Every month they send a box with your shaving supplies. At the beginning of the week, or whenever you want, you pop in a fresh blade and get that fresh blade shave. It feels fantastic, and it's just one of the many, many ways that you can maintain the good looks that everyone has come to expect from you. And if you join us at the Dollar Shave Club, their plans start at just $3 a month. They have a money-back guarantee, and there is no excuse for you to ever use any other razor. So just go to dollarshaveclub.com/crazy, K-R-A-Y-Z, to get started. One of the things you need to do this year, you need to get healthy. We all need to be healthy so we can all hang out a lot longer. And one of the ways to get healthy is not to go down to the vending machine and buy those chips or those candy bars or any of the other vending machine snacks. You want healthy snacks picked out by actual chefs who know what they're doing, and you can do that at graze.com. And if you use the code Cory S3R5P, your first and fifth box are free, so you can try it out. See if that's the kind of stuff you like. That's Cory S3R5P. Our final sponsor is Worldwide News. Worldwide News is the story of the lowest rated cable news network and the people who work there. It is updated twice a week by writer Cory Strode. Hey, that's me! And artist Dangerous Dan Moore. Worldwide News at worldwidenews.solitairerose.com, part of the Solitaire Rose family of websites. If you would like to contact us, there are a whole bunch of ways. You can email us at cory.strode@gmail.com. You can give us a call. We have a voice line that is open at all times at 952-856-0519, or you could go to Facebook and join the Crazy Comics and Stuff fan page. If you would like to advertise on Crazy Comics and Stories or on Solitaire Rose Radio, you can. Just send me an email at cory.strode@gmail.com, subject advertising. Thanks.
You gotta work on some better segues or whatever that's called.
Yeah, that's not a good segue. But then again, people know there are sponsors.
Yes.
That we gotta pay our bills. No, that's been used.
We just want to wet our beak a little.
Yes.
There you go. Joe, what do you have to plug?
Well, y'all know I got my eBay store going. I just thought I'd let you know. I joined eBay June 21st, 1998. My first sale was December 11th, 2001. And it sold for $25.49. So far, since 2001, I've done about 60 grand on eBay. And I ain't stopping yet. So head on over, and as I usually tell you, if there's, send me an email. You can do it via crazycomics@gmail.com or use eBay's own system. Let me know that you're the winner, and I will grab something out of my pile of stuff, my accumulation of crap, and give it to you as a freebie. We talked about some of the comics I put on last week, some of those, Death Row #1 that came out in 1993 that was signed by the artist. I had one that was donated, James Riot, The Path #0. And I actually ended up selling those. Of course, I didn't make any money on them because I offered free shipping on them, but that was a different subject. So the other ones that were interesting this week is in 2007 and 2008, NBC had a TV program called Heroes, and they kept giving away limited edition comics to try to get people excited about the show. The 2007 one I had was labeled #2, and it was only exclusive to the San Diego Comic-Con, which just passed a couple weekends ago. The second one was a limited edition black and white cover. I don't know where it came from or where it come out. Had Skylar on the front. Both these sold because somebody offered me a best offer format. So if you go online, you see something that you're interested in, and you want to send me a best offer, and maybe even tell me that you heard about it on this here show, I'll probably accept it. You never know. So run to Cory's website, check it out, send me an email. That's all.
Okay. Anybody else got anything to plug? I'm going to plug that we are in the summer of podcasting, where I am putting out two podcasts every week. Last week was the next part of the Jack Kirby biography. The week before that was the Don McGregor. McGregor.
Joe, you need to knock that shit off right now.
Shit.
Don't make me come up there.
You're coming anyways. That's the point.
You should be afraid.
I get a helmet in case you come at me with those umbrellas.
The Don McGregor podcast, I'm going to let everybody know something really cool about it. I am going to be fact-checked, and I'm going to be getting a list of things that were reported incorrectly or things that I read that weren't quite correct from Don McGregor himself.
Sweet.
Including, there was a story that I told that I'd actually read in the Warren Companion about how he was writing letters complaining to Jim Warren about how the stories in the magazine sucked, and he could do better, and Jim Warren wrote him back and said, well, then write some, and he did. McGregor said, well, that's not what happened. I've got a really good story about how I met Jim Warren, and he's going to send that to me, so I cannot wait to get that. But we've got all kinds of stuff. Until Labor Day, there will be 2 podcasts a week. And episode 200 next week, who could ask for anything more? I've even talked friends of mine into podcasting, like someone else whose microphone is muted.
I'm not muted right now.
Oh.
I'm right here.
What is
oh, shit, I thought you were behind me.
What is the URL of your podcast?
comicbrospodcast.com. BROS.
It's also.
Yes. Did you find
It's also on Stitcher.
It is on Stitcher, it's on iTunes, it's on Pocket Casts, it's on YouTube, and you can download it off the website. Did you finally listen to it?
Yes, I even put up a video of when I was listening to it.
You did?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yes, you did. You liked it on Instagram. So there.
I liked a video of a stream with some leaves.
Yeah, I was on I took a hike. I did a 5-mile hike on a Sunday because I didn't work. Not going to say why I didn't work, but I didn't work. And I listened to the podcast while on that 5-mile hike.
What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I think you guys got good chemistry. I think that it needs more crickets and Joe. And you add those things and it'll be almost as good as a podcast I'm on.
Well, maybe you can be a guest on my show sometime.
Maybe.
Well, we need to get a few episodes done so we know what we're doing still.
Never stopped us.
We're not gonna have people on just yet, but hopefully eventually.
Well, what I'm thinking is that by episode 500, we'll actually know what we're doing.
Good luck with that.
You know what the cool thing is? They do theirs monthly, we do ours weekly. So, Joe, no matter what, we will always have more episodes than they will, even if they become better than us.
Well, that's fine because, all 3 of the people on my podcast are comic creators, so we're all very, very busy. So we're just doing a once-a-month thing for now.
And we just kind of sit around and stare at the wall waiting for Monday night so we can record.
But I did have
sweet dino porn.
I did have.
The stuff that stodgy-ass Barnes & Noble refuses to stock. That company's not making
Where did that come from? Okay, I had a thing to plug. Do you have anybody else that listens to your show that lives here? Or is it just me?
In Houston?
Yes.
We have people all over the world who listen to us. We're big in Germany,
Well, I'm going to be at an art show here on the 29th.
Cool.
So you can go to my Facebook page facebook.com/Jin Wicked and I'm spamming all the information twice a week now about it, but I have 2 art shows left before I leave Houston, the 29th and the 31st.
And then when she gets to Minnesota, there are all kinds of art shows here.
Yes, and also I would like to build a snowman.
And what are you going to do to keep the squirrels from attacking and killing it?
I am going to purchase a small .22 rifle.
Fucking squirrels. I have horrible, horrible stories of squirrels. Squirrels are evil little bastards who for some reason people think are cute.
I love squirrels. They're adorable.
No, they aren't. They're evil.
No,
They're evil little bastards.
I had tame squirrels at one of my apartments. He would literally sit outside my window and wait for me to come outside and feed him.
Yes, because he was plotting evil.
Well, maybe I just have a kinship with my fellow
evil. If you guys
evil
are done
creatures.
swirling around, I'd like to mention that
Oh,
the
gosh.
Midwest Comic Book Association has their fall Comic-Con.
And Joe and I will be there.
And me.
We'll be recording a podcast.
It'll be 420 minutes. I hope the podcast doesn't go that long, of extreme comic book action. It's at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds Education Building. Go to www.mcbacomiccons.com or send your information, Jin, to mcbaquestions@gmail.com. Of course, if you Google any of this, you'll be able to find it. It's the Comic Book Party. Be there or be talked about.
That was MCBA questions?
At gmail.com, yes.
Okay, I wrote it down.
Excellent.
I will be there.
Like
Like
last
it or
week,
not.
I wrote down slipshine.net.
You have to pay for that, you know?
Well, if it's got dino porn, I'm happy.
I don't know if it's got dino porn or not.
Well, I'll tell you next week.
Joe, do you have a thing for stegosauruses? That
No, I just want to be
about?
taken by the T-Rex.
You like the tiny arms.
Yeah, they kind of remind me of me.
Well, kids, we've been talking for over an hour, so you know what that means.
What?
What?
Freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Cory, how was your Prime Day?
Oh, yeah, that happened, didn't it? What did I miss? Did I miss all sorts of cool deals? Did I miss all sorts of Blu-rays on sale? Did I miss all sorts of things that were really that I need in my life desperately?
No, but apparently there was a lot of tube socks.
Oh, dear God. I'm the best dressed man in comics. Tube socks to me are like kryptonite to Superman.
You can
Did you
send me
know-
all the tube socks.
Amazon has never made money. The company is dying. I mean, yeah, the CEO, what's his name, Jeff Bezos, he talks about stuff as good stocks and earnings. Skip that shit. Let's talk about profitless prosperity, a buzzwordy way of saying, being cool with not making any money, because they'll be swimming in it once this whole online shit takes off.
Once people know about the internet,
Well,
they're going to be big.
You got to look. Their free cash flow sits at about $2 billion a year. You know what that means? They're paying people on time, and that's all. They have not made money. They're not successful. The whole point of business is to make money and keep it. Amazon's mastered the former, but shits the bed with the latter. They make gobs of sales, but they're just, when they get bored, they spend their money on, the Fire smartphone, or what was the other goofy money-sucking idea, like free shipping and Amazon Prime, a.k.a. freer shipping. But it looks like they've quit prospering. Last October, their normally stagnant stock went down 20%. They lost $437 million, which is like 10 times what they lost a year before. I'm reading this off their report here. Last January, they lost $241 million. Remember, they made $89 billion in cash, and they're losing money. The sad thing is the toll they're having on everybody but Walmart. Between Amazon and Walmart, small shops as we know it, are just disappearing. I think we talked about it last week. There's a bookstore in town that's for sale. Why? Probably because it's going under. and this is the last gasp for it, although the people selling it say it's doing fine. I'm torn between it because I get great deals on Amazon. I get good deals at Walmart, but they're just killing everything. And unlike Walmart, which actually makes money, Amazon isn't. Sooner or later, the next better idea is going to come along. Amazon's going to disappear, and nothing's going to be left in its wake but broken promises, dead dreams, and dino porn. That's all I'm freaking on. Corey, what are you freaking on? What's got your goat down?
Well, we should have Jin do her freaking first.
You always go first, and then you make her freak out.
You see, her freakings is usually far more entertaining than mine.
Mine's not entertaining this week.
Oh, okay.
It's just fucking hot here. I'm dying.
Hot, damn hot, real hot.
I have to paint, and I have like my work lights on my easel, and they're right on top of what I'm working on, so I can really see what I'm doing, and I just bake, and not in the good way, and the house is the wall that my office is in is a southern exposure, and there's no trees or anything, so the sun just relentlessly beats on the side of the house all day, and it's like 80 degrees in here underneath bright lights, trying to work. I was inking in the dark last night with 2 fans.
What were their names?
You just stole that joke right off of my Facebook. Excuse me, let me go read the response that I typed there. What were their names? A lady doesn't tell, but I'm not going to say anyway.
I'm just trying to Google where Donald Trump is at this moment.
That's
hopefully talking on TV.
I want to build a snowman. I want to hide inside the snowman.
Snow time.
Now, I will take pictures of that.
I want to build an ice fort.
That could be one of your podcasts. Jin builds a snowman.
I don't know if I have any pictures of the snowman you built.
I don't think that we took it.
Giant snowballs and a snow dick. So when the snowblower comes by, he has a big snow smile.
Can I have one podcast that I'm on that doesn't turn to talking about penises?
I was going to talk about Care Bears, but I didn't really want to do that.
Corey, what are you freaking about?
On Friday night, they tried to get me to come into work at 6 o'clock in the evening and work until, 10 a.m. Now, never mind that I have a full-time job. I told them, you realize if I do this, I will be awake and at work for over 24 hours in a row. So they relented and quit asking me. But then, when I got home, they said, our overnight person can only work until 3 in the morning. Is there any way you could come in and work? We will give you a $75 bonus. So at 2 in the morning, in the middle of one of the most horrific storms we've had in Minnesota in ages, I woke up, got a shower, got in my car. I'm driving to work, actually going around down to trees on major roads. Was at work from 3 in the morning until 10 in the morning. Now, the good thing was I was done at 10 in the morning. The bad thing was I got to work at 3 in the morning. And the woman I worked with, you know how she stays awake on her overnight shifts? Constantly talks the entire time. So I got to hear every detail about her life from 3 in the morning until 6:30 in the morning. I'm very much an introvert. Being around people takes energy from me. By the time I left at 10 a.m., I really felt like I'd been working for over 35 hours in a row. The other thing I'm kind of freaking about is that up here in Minnesota, it's hot, damn hot, swamp hot, nasty hot, and we had horrible, horrible storms, and usually, the storms went through, everything's fine. No, the storms went through Friday night, and then Saturday, all the rain that had fallen became steam. It became humid.
It'll be better by September, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
it's actually getting better tonight. It's going to get down to like 60 with no humidity.
I know. It's a beautiful thing. But I moved to Minnesota to get away from heat.
Yeah.
Boy, wait till you hear what global warming is going to do to Minnesota.
Yeah, it's going to make me move to Newfoundland.
Yeah, maybe a little farther north.
I'm not moving to Alaska, Joe. The internet there sucks.
True. Well, Anchorage was okay.
Well,
Barrow was good.
Well, except for all the vampires.
Oh, no, they're gone. The polar bears got them.
That's still my favorite story ever. Joe announces he's going to be in Barrow, Alaska. My roommate at the time, I turned to her and go, well, Joe's going to be in Barrow, Alaska. And she goes, oh, yeah, I know about that place. That's where 30 Days a Night was filmed, right? And I said, yeah, that's where it was set. I don't think it was filmed there. Well, you know it was based on a true story, right?
Yeah, let's go with that.
30 Days of Night is about vampires. Vampires aren't real. Well, it's based on something that really happened. No, it's based on a comic book. And she went back to watching Ghost Hunters, which she also believed was real. Geeking, Joe, what are you geeking on? What are you loving?
Well, I was going to mention earlier, and I forgot. If you're selling stuff on eBay, send me a note. crazycomics@gmail.com. I'd like to see what you're selling, because y'all know I love buying stuff on eBay as much as I do selling. This week, I picked up 2 comics from Caliber called The Return of Happy the Clown. And the only reason, I actually got both issues in the series. The only reason I picked them up is because somebody online who I follow and like reading, Troy Boyle, did the artist. Or he was the art, I should say. This was actually created, written, and plotted by Gary Francis, and then Troy wrote it. One of his followers mentioned, hey, I got a copy of one. And so when I Googled it, I found somebody was actually selling the 2 issues. And I think the second issue is actually self-published because it doesn't have Caliber's logo on it. And, of course, Troy, being one of the nation's leading atheists, his Facebook is actually kind of fun to follow, just to see what he has to say this week. And he's a really, really talented artist, and I can't wait to meet him someday and force him to sign this for me. I don't give a rat's ass about Blake Shelton or Miranda Lambert. Didn't even know who they are. TV-wise, I'm waiting through Star Trek, Next Gen. My wife's actually kind of paying attention because that's kind of the Star Trek she liked. And I kind of skipped over the entire first season. I got to the one at the end of the first season where the Romulans come back and, somebody's wiped out a bunch of posts and they realize it wasn't the Romulans, but they didn't know who. And, of course, we find out who later in the second season. The second season one she watched with me was the one where Riker ends up going to a Klingon ship. And one of the cool things about that was when you and I, Cory, back went to the San Diego Comic-Con, I met one of the actors who played one of the Klingons. He also did the bounty hunter in X-Files. So it was kind of like I went by his table and I was like, oh, cool, I didn't know you did this. He said, well, yeah, when you're under a lot of makeup, you don't really notice things like that. So that's I'll just keep wading through that. That's kind of fun. I mentioned earlier what I got on eBay, but I got a ton of stuff in the mail, and a lot of it was because it was Kickstarter stuff that I had pledged stuff to and totally forgot about. For example, I finally
I wish I had enough money I could forget I'd spent.
I did. I mean, it's like you talked earlier about Spock's Brain. Well, 5-Year Mission, that's the name of the group. Their latest CD is called Spock's Brain. I know 5-Year Mission because of, I believe his name is Mike Rittenhouse. He owns Heroes House Comics. I think it's down in Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. Hopefully he's listening and corrected. He also did the Bob and Hal comic when.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and on the cover of the package where he sent me the CDs, I got a big picture of his version of Kray going, "Live long and be friggin' prosperous." So something else for the file. I went high enough where I've got their other 3 albums, which cover the first 3 seasons. The gimmick is every song they have refers to a different episode of Star Trek. And what I like to do, as I mentioned before, when I got their 3rd album, which they all autographed, I just throw it in and listen to it and then try to guess which episode they're talking about. So that was kind of fun. Then I also got the latest volume of Girl Genius by, how you say name, Kaja and Phil Folio?
Folio, yeah.
Yes.
And this is book 1, The Beast of the Rails. I have loved his comic way back when he published it as a comic. I've got 5 of the 15 volumes of the first one. I know distinctly where I stopped reading it. For a while, when I was way out in working D.C. for 7 months, every day I would read what they put on the internet, because that's what they do. They post it as a webcomic, and then they eventually put it together in book format. So the latest one I got, very cool. Plus I got a signed book plate and print and some other goodies. So again, I know I funded them. I know I paid. I knew it was coming, but I didn't expect them. And so when they showed up, it was actually kind of fun. Comic-wise, kind of light this week on comics. I've read probably my last issue of IDW's Uncle Scrooge. I'm just not feeling it. Maybe I'm spoiled because of reading Carl Barks and Don Rosa, but I just not digging this version of Uncle Scrooge. Bob Fingerman's Minimum Wage #2. I like his art. It's a slice of life comic. I like following it along. I am reading Amazing Spider-Man Spiral, which goes under the numbering 18.1. It's a good story. It's decent art. Gary Conway's doing a good spin, but I tell you, if I could go the rest of my life without another mobster story from Spider-Man. It just seems so anticlimactic after what's been building up in Secret Wars, you know. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go fight Hammerhead. Oh, well. Invader Zim #1. I finally liberated it from my daughters. If you like Invader Zim, you have to read this comic. It's fantastic. How could it not be? Written by Jonan Vasquez. So definitely run out, pick that one up. A book that Cory raved about in previous podcasts, courtesy of my daughter. I finally read the first 2 trade paperbacks. The Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Oh, Joe. It's about time.
Well, I had to wait till she got back from Italy because she took those with her. The question is, how many she only had the first 2. How many more do I need to catch up on?
None.
They only did 2?
No. In the next previews, they will have an omnibus.
Ooh.
Buy the omnibus.
There we go.
By the way, if you like...
Oh, by the way, these are now going on eBay because I'm going to go buy the omnibus.
By the way, if you like that series, you need to pick up the current Ant-Man series because in a lot of ways it's a continuation of that.
I'll have to pick that one up as trades as well. So as you can tell, I'm geeking on quite a bit. Jin, what are you geeking on?
I've been throwing shit in the trash.
That's a good way to do it. If you can't eBay it, give it away, trash it.
I'm starting to get ready to move. I'm started to pack because it always takes longer than I think it will. And just giving shit away, throwing stuff in the trash. I don't know what it is, but throwing stuff away is so cathartic. And I'm just like, I haven't touched this in 6 months. Throw it away. And, I always get picked on because I'm like, whatever happened to that thing that I had 5 or 6 years ago? Oh, I'm pretty sure you threw it in the trash. Oh, well, I guess I didn't want it that bad. Never mind.
That's actually not a bad way to do it. If you haven't used it in a year, get rid of it.
Yeah, pretty much. And also tonight, I cleaned out my office closet a couple of nights ago, and I was pulling some boxes down out of the top of the closet, and I found a box that my dad gave me after my mom passed away. My mom had saved... there's very well organized manila folders that say kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and she saved my report cards. There's class pictures and a lot of my artwork I did when I was in school. So I took a couple pictures of some stuff I wouldn't post for friends, but I am going to be scanning and taking pictures of some of this stuff and posting it on my Facebook just for fun, because I think it's entertaining to see. I was so optimistic then. Their colors, I'm wearing things other than black.
See, that's weird. When I was a kid, I was the opposite of optimistic, and I'm getting more optimistic now.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's kind of irritating. I need to come up there and drag you back down.
Damn it! Cory, you know that Four Agreements book? We're going to burn it in front of you, okay? And we're going to dance around it as if it's a pagan ritual.
Did you go yet?
Nope, make them go.
Me?
Make them go.
Okay, Cory, what are you geeking on?
Saturday, I went and saw the Ant-Man movie. I honestly did not expect much because, come on, it's fucking Ant-Man. And it's Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd, who makes all those horrible bro movies that make me want to gouge my eyes out with 18-inch long steel needles.
That's not the mall cop guy?
No, it's the 40-year virgin. What's the other one he did? I Love You, Man.
I haven't seen those, so.
All of those Judd Apatow man-child movies.
I don't like those.
I hate those movies with a passion. I just hate them. And so I wasn't expecting much, but it's Marvel, so I want to see it on the big screen first. Ant-Man was a lot of fun. It was a superhero movie with a caper movie in it, even though the caper was really dumbed down because, it's not like you're going to, hey, we're going to do a movie that's a little more complicated than The Sting or Lucky Number 11 with superheroes. But I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but there was a cameo in it, and I was the only person in the theater who laughed, and the theater was pretty much full. Joe, do you know why Garrett Morris would be in the Ant-Man movie?
I can't think of a thing.
Back in the original Saturday Night Live, they did a thing about a superhero party. Garrett Morris played Ant-Man, and the other heroes were making fun of him. Hey, ask this guy what his power is. I shrink to the size of an ant and I have the power of a human. Whoa, look out. He's got the power of a human. And they put Garrett Morris in the Ant-Man movie. And I thought it was just brilliant and funny, and I'm glad that Garrett Morris is alive.
That's good humor.
The other thing that I'm geeking on, I'm not someone who buys a lot of original art because I don't have a lot of places to put it. I don't buy a lot of special cover comics because, they're going in a box or whatever. But I have started to get a little addicted to Marvel's, what they call the sketch covers, where it's a blank cover and an artist will draw a sketch on it. Because Tom Beeland, who was mentioned in our last episode, does tons of these, and they're hilarious and fun to look at and everything. And I've really gotten hooked on some of the artists who aren't big names that I like, buying their covers for like $20, $30. But looking out on eBay and looking at how fast these things sell, if you are a comic book artist or a cartoonist or anything like that, and you're not buying these blank covers, just doing a quick sketch and putting them up on eBay for $30 to $50, you're losing money. These things sell like crap.
Money in the bank.
Joe, how many of them? I know you've bought a lot of Hembeck stuff like that. Have you bought any others?
I've bought a lot of trading cards of that type, where people, they're doing the trading card type stuff. Another artist that does it, I don't know the name of the artist, but he goes under Rocket Red 23 on eBay and does the same thing. For example, he's got Batman, a female Batman and a female Robin, and she's saying, I can't believe Clayface disguised himself as your mud bath. So just, and again, that's whoever the artist is, that's all he does, is just does these really whacked out things. I've got 2 so far. I've got one from Tom Beelan, and then, of course, the aforementioned Fred Hembeck. The Hembeck one I actually have up in my Supergirl album on Facebook. And, of course, anything I put on Facebook, I don't care who sees. I mean, geez, NSA's watching me. My wife's mad at me. Chinese got all my information. Hell, they probably got your information, Cory. I put you down as one of my contacts.
What'd you do to piss off your wife?
What hasn't he done to piss off his wife?
Sorry, I didn't mean to freak on your geek. Go ahead, Cory. What are you geeking on?
I have actually been buying Jessica Hickman. I've bought a couple of her covers. She's a local artist here, really does some good stuff, and I love how she draws Princess Leia, so I've been buying a couple Star Wars covers that she's done. And the last thing I have is kind of a personal thing. I talked a couple years ago about how my blood pressure went completely batshit insane to the point where, well, I went in, and one of the tests we had to do at the group home was you had to go in, you had to do physical stuff, you had to pick up a box with 50 pounds in it. For me, picking up 50 pounds, I squat 250. That's no big deal. But I go in, and they do all the tests, and then they take my blood pressure, and the nurse gets this look on her face and leaves the room. And any time a nurse does something and then gets a look on her face and leaves the room, you should worry. The doctor came in, took it again, and said, "We have a problem here. I don't think I can clear you to work at the group home." What are you talking about? Your blood pressure's in the very high range.
Was the nurse a redhead?
No.
Okay, well, that's my theory.
But part of the test was you had to pick up the box with 50 pounds. He said, "I don't want you doing that." What do you mean? I go to the gym all the time. He says, "What happens after you squat?" "Well, you get a little lightheaded and this and that." And he says, "Yeah, that's because your blood pressure's probably in the dangerous range. Don't do that anymore." And I started on this regimen where I completely changed everything I eat. I have changed my workout completely. I've changed all this stuff. And while my blood pressure did drop, the other results are starting to come in. I am now in an XL t-shirt rather than a 2XL t-shirt. I gave away a huge amount of clothing over the last 6 months. I went to Goodwill over the weekend with 2 big garbage bags full of fat clothes that are now gone. And most people, when they talk about a diet, it's like, "Oh, God, I'm on this diet." In changing what I eat, I actually enjoy what I'm eating more. I enjoy cooking a lot more, and it's actually much easier for me to actually get everything I need to go to work because, I make soup, I make this, I make that. So I'm really geeking about the fact that I'm wearing clothes that I haven't worn since 1999.
Doesn't
clothing sizes.
Doesn't hauling away those bags of clothes feel so good?
It's amazing.
I've lost over 40 pounds, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, since last summer, since last fall, really. And I had a wedding, I think, to go to, or a funeral, same difference. And yeah. And I needed my dress pants, and I hadn't bought any in forever and put them on, and they literally just fell off of me. It had been so long since I worn them. So I didn't go because I didn't have any pants. Which was
one
great.
way to pick up a few dates.
Which was great as an excuse because I didn't really want to go anyway. But
I can't go. I have no pants.
But yeah, I mean, no, it's just amazing. Like I haven't taken it to Goodwill yet, but I have the giant trash bag full of clothing that just, you put it on and you're like, I wore this? Because
now
it's just falling off of you.
Remember to track what you gave, because people vastly underestimate just how much the IRS would give you credit for stuff you donate to Goodwill.
Well, I don't itemize my deductions anyway,
okay.
So it doesn't matter.
If you do, because I mean, that's something we do.
Yeah.
And I mean, it used to be my wife would just say, "Okay, it's $50 a bag." I said, "No, write down what it is." She donates usually up to like $1,000 a year in clothes. God knows what she pays for it, but you get a deduction if you itemize like that.
Yeah, I don't. I just take the standard.
Now, of course, what people got to know, Cory, which Goodwill did you go for? So people can go to that Goodwill and get a piece of the wardrobe of the best dressed man in comics. We could have sold it. We could have made millions on eBay, but you're not thinking, oh, I can't work in this environment.
Well, the J. Peterman and high-end stuff I have actually given to a friend of mine who...
The second best dressed person in comics.
He's probably... Well, he's not a comic book person.
Ooh, ringer.
But one of the things is that he's kind of fallen on financial hard times and needed stuff for job interviews. And so I brought him over kind of the first batch back in, I think it was like March or something. And I remember, because I don't pay attention to how I look, but I remember it was the first time anyone said, "Have you lost weight?" And I wasn't weighing myself at the gym that often. Matter of fact, one of the person who said that's actually on the podcast. And at the gym, it's like, oh, wow, I've lost about 15 pounds.
Oh, was that me that said that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you posted a picture or something, and I thought, God, you look small. What happened?
And now
never say that to a guy.
I weigh 25 pounds less than
There with
that.
the penis jokes again.
Just don't say that. I mean, say you look good, you look thin. Never say small.
I'm used to it. So the other thing I'm doing is I've kind of hit a point, and Joe and I have talked about this before, where you look at the vast accumulation of crap you have, and for me it's novels, and it's like, I really like that novel, but I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to read it again, ever. So I am boxing up novels, and a couple people I know who work in different charities are going to take these novels that I read and I'm never going to read again. So there is kind of this wonderful unburdening of stuff. But for me, the health aspect is really cool, because when your blood pressure goes through the roof, you actually buy one of those blood pressure machines, and I actually paid through the nose to get a good one. And my blood pressure is down to the point where the next time I see my doctor, he's going to take me off one of the medications.
That's great.
The advice I'm going to give people, just go to Google and put in Alton Brown diet.
You really like that guy.
Alton Brown is my hero.
I'm telling you, I can't even mention cooking anything without Cory being like, Alton Brown.
Did you ever know he was your hero?
Joe.
Sorry, I tried to bite my tongue. I had to.
Nope.
It wells up inside me.
Joe, stop.
You don't know how many I could have done earlier.
No. We're going to stop now. Quiet time.
Everybody stop. Quiet time.
No, stop. What have I done?
But the Alton Brown system, if you want to call it that, is there are 4 lists. Things you should eat daily, things you can eat 3 times a week, things you can have once a week, and things you should never ever have. Daily, whole grains, green tea, fruit, nuts, vegetables. I cannot tell you how many vegetables I have incorporated into my diet and how much raw food I'm eating now. If I had more time and intelligence, I would become a raw vegan. But good God, that takes a long time. There's a lot of chemistry involved. 3 times a week are things like oily fish, which I can't eat, but I'm actually thinking of incorporating some fish into my diet. I know, shocking. Tofu, yogurt, sweet potatoes, complicated starches like steel-cut oatmeal, etc., etc. Once a week, alcohol, desserts, red meat. Don't eat red meat. White starch, potatoes. And then never canned soup, soda, diet anything, fast food. The one where I break the rule is diet soda, but here's the thing. I think I've talked about in the past at the full-time job. Sorry, full-time, he puts in quotes. We have unlimited free soda. Because, hey, we're not going to give you full-time, we're not going to pay you well, but here, have some sugar water. Come on, drink it, you fat bastard. So, unlimited free diet soda. I have 1 a day, and the rest is ice-cold water, because actually when you drink ice-cold water, it's better for you, it flushes out toxins, And you lose weight drinking ice water because your body has to heat it up.
Cory, will you teach me how to lift, bro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lifting's fun.
Yeah. I don't want to hurt myself.
You won't have to.
Well, I will if I try it by myself.
Well, yeah. For those of you who've been following my health, when I tell those health stories, my health is actually much, much better than it's been in a long time. And I'm geeking on that. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
I believe
or
it.
Longer.
No, the ticker on Skype says 1
hour,
46.
50 minutes, and 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, Joe was on before
7
me.
seconds, yep. Of course,
Yeah,
there was a few minutes before you joined us where we were just talking. Cory will edit the fun stuff out.
I do a good job of editing. That's another thing I'm geeking on. When we got done with the episode last week, Jin was like, I sucked. I was terrible. I'm no good. And I said, calm down. It'll sound great. Trust me. I've been making Joe sound good for 5 years. Get the episode done. Jin listens to it, goes, hey, I was pretty good on that episode.
That was less awful than I anticipated.
I don't pat myself on the back much, but I'm going to do the Barry Horowitz pat myself on the back for that one.
I'll bake you a pie.
Me too. Oops, too hard.
Pie. Well, as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Jin, you live in Texas, right?
Yep.
I heard that a farmer outside of Lubbock is known for his corn crops. They're the yellow rose of Texas. Ha hit my music. Call my mama. I feel like dancing.
Jin, do you have a close yet?
I got nothing.
We're pretty much used to that by this point.
Good night.
Wait, what if it's morning? Good morning. What if it's Arbor Day? Good Arbor Day.
Nobody listens to this on Arbor Day. They're too busy out playing with the trees.